one person confirmed transported to the hospital from that scene. We don't know that person's condition, exactly what the status is. We understand that at that point, that car had been under the water for somewhere around 40 minutes, maybe longer.
Some tragedies arrive without warning. One moment, life is moving forward as it always does. The next moment, something unthinkable happens, and nothing is ever the same again. That is what unfolded in Pittsburgh when a 31-year-old woman lost her life in a sudden and terrifying way. A moment so shocking that it would leave an entire community searching for answers. It was a cold winter afternoon in Pittsburgh. Snow and ice were still covering parts of the city. Roads were slick in some places, and drivers were being cautious, as many do during the winter months. Justenta Stevens was driving along the Parkway East, heading outbound near the Oakland area. It was a route she likely knew well, just like thousands of other drivers who use that road every day. There was nothing to suggest that this drive would be different from any other. Justenta was alone in her SUV. She was simply going where she needed to go, like so many people do every single day. But within seconds, everything changed. According to investigators, Justenta's vehicle was traveling in the left lane of the Parkway East. At some point, she lost control of her vehicle. What caused that loss of control is still being examined, but winter conditions were present, and ice may have played a role. Her vehicle moved across multiple lanes of traffic. It did not stop after drifting slightly. Instead, it continued all the way to the right side of the road. There, her vehicle struck a snow embankment. That snow embankment turned out to be deadly. Instead of stopping the vehicle, it acted like a ramp. The vehicle went up and over the concrete barrier at the edge of the parkway. In a matter of moments, Justenta's car was airborne. The vehicle dropped more than 100 feet. Below the roadway was the Monongahela River, frozen over with thick ice from the winter cold. The vehicle broke through the ice and plunged into the freezing water below. No one on the road saw the crash happen, a crash that almost went unnoticed. One of the most frightening parts of this story is how close Justenta came close to never being found at all. There were no calls from drivers saying they saw a car go into the river. Cars kept moving along the parkway, and life above the road went on like normal. If it was not for two people who happened to be underneath the overpass and noticed something was wrong, no one may have known a car had gone into the water. Those two people called 911. Their call set off a massive emergency response. Police, firefighters, and paramedics rushed to the scene along the river. At first, there was confusion. Early reports suggested that two cars might have gone into the water. That raised serious concern that more than one person could be trapped below the ice. The river was icy and dark. The temperature was dangerously cold. The banks near the water were steep and difficult to access. Everything about the situation made the rescue more dangerous and more urgent. Specially trained river rescue divers were called in. These are responders who train for situations exactly like this, but that does not mean the risk disappears. Even with training, icy water rescues are extremely dangerous. 6 divers entered the Monongahela River. They could not stay underwater for long periods because of the risk of hypothermia. The water was cold enough to sap strength quickly, even with protective gear. The divers used ropes to lower themselves down the steep hillside and into the water. Visibility was limited. Ice covered much of the river's surface, and the car had broken through it, creating jagged edges that added more danger. When they reached the vehicle, they found it upright on the riverbed, about 15 to 20 feet below the surface. Justenta was still inside the driver's seat. The divers worked carefully but quickly. They removed Justenta from the vehicle and placed her into a rescue basket. She was brought up out of the freezing water and handed over to paramedics waiting on shore. CPR was started immediately. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Emergency crews did everything they could to save her life. But despite those efforts, Justenta Stevens was pronounced dead. She was only 31 years old. After Justenta was removed from the water, the divers went back down for a second dive. This time their goal was to confirm that no one else was inside the vehicle and that no other cars had gone into the river. That second dive confirmed what responders hoped but feared to learn too late. There was only one vehicle. There was only one victim.
Let's
Run you through what we know so far. The first calls to 911 coming in around 4:30 yesterday afternoon. Sky 4, Pittsburgh's only news chopper, was the first on scene and stayed there for nearly 2 hours as that rescue operation continued. Now, according to Chief Amara Gilchrist with Pittsburgh EMS, there were initially reports that 2 cars went into the river. We now know that was only one. That car, of course, being driven by 31-year-old Justenta Stevens. She was traveling east or outbound along the Parkway East when she lost control of her vehicle right before the Oakland exit, if you're familiar with that area. Pittsburgh paramedics, we're told, did 2 dives. The first one was to rescue the victim from the vehicle. The second was to ensure that there were no other people in that car and that no other cars were involved. Divers had to work quickly and in dangerous, downright dangerous conditions, entering the icy water in the dark with a limited field of vision. Now, just to give you some perspective of just how dangerous really that rescue operation was, if we bring you back out here this morning, you can see that the Mon is still completely covered in ice. That was the case yesterday as well. When the car veered off of the road and hit the river, it broke that ice, right? In the time that crews were doing that rescue operation, that ice froze over multiple times. So, I mean, it was just refreezing so very quickly. And so you really have to stop and appreciate the first responders who were doing all they could to ultimately try and save that woman.
As the investigation continued, the name of the woman who died was released. Justenta Stevens was a Pittsburgh native who grew up in the city. She attended the former Peabody High School and remained connected to her community. Justenta was a mother to an 11-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. Her 2 children will now grow up without her presence, her voice, and her guidance, a loss that is impossible to measure. She also worked as a city employee, serving the community through her job as a housing specialist with the Housing Authority. Beyond her work, Justenta had been following her dream of becoming a model. She was active in the local fashion scene and took her work seriously. People who modeled with her say she was professional, confident, and supportive, and that she was just getting started. Many believe she had a bright future ahead of her and that she was making her mark in Pittsburgh. Friends described her as kind, supportive, and encouraging, saying she had a calm confidence and a warmth that made people feel comfortable around her. When news of Justenta's death spread, the reaction was immediate and emotional, with friends, co-workers, and people who knew her from different parts of her life sharing their heartbreak. Many spoke about how unreal it felt, saying that one moment she was here and the next she was gone. People talked about her kindness, her smile, her love for her children, and her drive to build a better future. There was also deep appreciation for the first responders who risked their own safety in the freezing river, with many saying that even though the outcome was tragic, the effort to save Justenta mattered. A GoFundMe fundraiser has been created to support the family of Justenta Stevens during this incredibly difficult time. The fundraiser explains that Justenta was a devoted mother to her 2 children and describes her as the heart of their family, a loving daughter, granddaughter, sister, cousin, and friend whose love helped keep everyone connected. Her sudden passing has left her family and friends shocked and deeply heartbroken. The fundraiser was started by her cousin on behalf of the family, with the goal of helping Justenta's loved ones navigate life without her by laying her to rest with dignity and providing immediate and ongoing support for her children.
She had such a promising future. She was very talented, so it's just sad to see all that cut short because it's someone I think that could have went really, really far in her profession.
Tony Bazemore Jr. worked with Justenta Stevens on the runway and sitting together for photo shoots. He called her cool and fun, a description that comes across in these photos another friend shared with me. Bazemore Jr. says when he heard it was Justenta Stevens' car that went off the Parkway into the Mon River Thursday and that the kind, talented mother didn't survive, he immediately felt the loss and sadness for her family.
I would want to say to her family, you have my sincerest condolences, She was a very amazing person, and, to the other people that, I worked with that also worked with her, my heart's with you. And, hopefully, everyone that's been, hurt by this situation, we could, get through this together. Hopefully everyone can move forward. I know this is going to be a tough time, but I just want to say, my prayers are with everybody.
State police continue to investigate exactly what caused Justenta to lose control of her SUV. examining road conditions, speed, and whether ice played a role, as well as inspecting the vehicle once it is recovered from the river. Investigators have said that winter driving can create many dangers, even for experienced drivers, and that a small patch of ice can be enough to change everything. At this time, there is no indication that anyone else was involved in the crash. Justenta's death has reminded many Pittsburgh residents of how dangerous winter roads can be, especially in areas with sharp curves, elevation changes, and barriers near water, and it has also brought back memories of a similar crash that happened decades ago in nearly the same location, adding another layer of sadness to an already devastating loss. At the heart of this story is a woman who mattered. Justenta Stevens was not just a victim of a crash. She was a mother who loved her children, a friend who showed up for others, and a woman building a future and believing in herself. Her life ended far too soon, in a way no one could have predicted. And as her family and friends grieve, they are left holding memories instead of moments, telling her story so that she is remembered, not for how she died, but for how she lived. As Pittsburgh continues to move forward, Justenta's name will remain tied to this tragedy, but also to the love and respect so many had for her. Her life mattered, her story matters, and she will not be forgotten.
Shortly before 4:30 this late afternoon, got reports of a car that came off the parkway and into the lawn. Didn't really have a lot of details at that point. Got down here, initial reports that there were possibly two cars that had went into the water from video footage that we had seen, but it was non-confirmed. Pittsburgh paramedics did two dives. The first one was to rescue the victim from the vehicle, and they started to resuscitate her. She's in critical condition, was transported to the hospital. There was still some question as to if there was any other victims in the vehicle and or if there was another car in. So the paramedics performed a second dive, and they were able to confirm that there was not a second car in the water and that there were no other victims located.
So what's taking place at this point?
At this point, it's just basically cleanup. We've been out here for several hours. The Pittsburgh paramedics, I cannot say enough about the divers. I mean, it's sub-zero temperatures out there, and they actually had to dive through the ice. We had a lot of help with the fire department. We had a lot of actually off-duty paramedics that had come in just to support this effort. So, I mean, crews did a fantastic job.
How many divers were in the water?
At any time, there was one diver in because we had one on the surface just to make sure the other one was safe. And because of the frigid temperatures, a couple of them had to go out and get rehabbed because it was so cold.
How did you choose this specific sort of a response? I know that there's River Rescue also has a boat that can go on ice. How did you choose what you did here?
Well, it was safest to do a land-based one because there's so much ice out there that we don't really have a boat that can respond that close, especially because it was to shore. They had to rig a rope system to actually safely get the responders down into the water.
How deep is the water there?
I'm not exactly sure. I would say maybe 20 feet, but I'm not exactly sure because it was actually close to the wall.
How far out from the edge of the land did they go out?
I think from what I could see, they were only like about 5 feet from the wall.
What happens to the car?
It went over, it's still down there. We can't recover it right now.
But that would be something that would happen. I know that you're not the investigation, but
Correct.
Would they take that out of the water there? Do you know?
You said would they or did they?
Would they?
They would, but it definitely wouldn't happen tonight.
So we could be talking about maybe warmer weather.
Say it again?
You could be waiting for warmer weather to recover the car.
I think it'll be sooner than that. So it's not going to be warm for quite a while.
And you guys are, it's one car, one person.
Yes,
Just
that is
How long were
correct.
the rescuers, sorry.
No, go ahead.
How long were the rescuers in the water before they pulled the victim?
They were probably down there for maybe 20 minutes because they had to suit up. They had to get the ropes rigged. They had to get a ladder down into the water, so it took a little while. So,
just how unique are the conditions for those divers with the ice here and everything?
Well, our paramedics that are divers are trained in ice rescue. It is definitely not an ideal situation, but they have trained for months, years to do this. So.
What type of restrictions does the cold weather on the ice pose for the divers? Do they have to be out at a certain time?
They cannot stay in the water past a certain time, or there's a risk of hypothermia. Like I said, anyone that dove in the water today actually had to come out after a short period of time to get rehab. So
it's a dangerous job for them, correct?
Absolutely. It's like we've had folks that have suffered hypothermia. The first thing that happens is you start getting confused and disoriented, and that's a very dangerous situation to be down in the water when that happens, because the vision, your field of vision, is very short. It's very dark, and this happened towards the evening when the sun was going down. So it was very scary for them to have to operate in these kind of conditions.
How many divers?
We have a total of 6 divers here today. Like I said, some were actually off duty and came in because they heard the call. We've actually physically had 3 divers go in, but we still had some on standby.
Can you tell us about the extraction of getting this individual out of the car?
So what the divers did, they got in the water, they had the rope system hooked up, they had a Stokes basket lowered down into the water, they had to harness the victim inside and then put them in the basket and hoist them up. So they were actually able just to go down and get the person out of the car, out of the driver's seat.
I'm correct too, they didn't have a lot of room to work here on the riverbank here.
Correct.
Yeah.
They did not. Yeah, so that's why it was important for them to have the rope systems rigged up. So.
Are there any injuries among the divers? Are they doing okay now?
No, all of the divers, thank goodness, are fine. They're just warming up. Like I said, there was always that risk of hypothermia. The hillside that they went over was pretty steep. So, there's also that potential for injury falling, but thank goodness no one was injured. So
who's handling this investigation? Would be state police?
So, yes, that would be the state police. The state police are handling the investigation, yes.
Okay. Anything else, guys?
Do you all have any estimation on how long you're going to continue to wrap up operations here?
So actually they're finished diving. They're actually getting all of their equipment packed up. That's going to take a little bit of time. But we've been out here for a couple hours, so yeah.
So half an hour or so you're done.
Huh?
Half hour or so you guys will be done.
Yeah, about a half an hour, 45 minutes, yeah. So, and I just wanted to just give a shout out to, the Pittsburgh paramedics, just a fabulous job. EMA, we had someone come out just to set up the lights and stuff so we could actually see the fire department, the Sally Wagon, the Salvation Army, just all of the folks that were involved here just to make this a safe and successful operation.